Hello and welcome to a very special podcast. We've got our first guest on this show. And if you got the name of the show, Cool.Fine.Done, Wicked. Yeah, you're joined by me, Kavan.
Me, Rash.
And this is, of course, Cool.Fine.Done, Wicked on the akhi&saltfish digital network. I'm incredibly excited to announce our first guest. Let's turn the music down a little bit. He's a poet. And I saw him way back in October at a Black History Month in Milton Keynes. And as soon as he did his piece, first of all, I was doing all this. If you know what that means, you've been poetry before. But second of all, I thought I need to get him on to capture his story, understand where he's coming from and where he's going. Because for me, I was captivated right away. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guest. It's Nomadic Libaax.
Yes.
Let's go. How's it going, man? You good, bro?
I'm good, man. Peace and blessings to you all and everyone tuned in, man. Thank you very much. I'm good myself. How are you doing?
Bro, it's been a good Sunday. It's been a good weekend. It's been a good week. And I think, we're starting the next week on a good vibe. Is that right?
Yeah, man. 100%.
Yeah, man. Creative vibes as well. We just been, before you got in, we were listening to loads of old music, getting our minds ready for the creative process. So, yeah, it's been a positive start. I can't lie.
Lovely to hear, man.
Thank you very much. Thanks for asking. So before we get started then, or rather when we get started, I should say, let's get into your start. Where do you get your name from?
Okay. A nomad or nomadic means someone who wanders from place to place. And that derives from the fact that Somalis are intrinsically a nomadic people. To typical Somali, they're a pastoral people. That means they travel from place to place, watering and herds. So the nomads in the sense of historically, as well as even up until today, we travel all the world. And that is a representation of myself. And the second part of my name, which means Libaax, which translates to lion in Somali.
Hey,
so
I
tried to represent the identity of who I am being a British Somali in my artistry and my name, because one part is in English and the other part is in Somali. So people sometimes have a difficulty pronouncing it, but that's a part of the storyline.
I'm going to add that to my words.
Libaax.
Yeah.
I know Belize and Hilib. I know that.
Come on,
you already know. Come on.
Good food.
Very good food.
Is that what it means? Good food?
No, not good food.
What does it mean, sorry?
You can explain it better than me. It's just food like...
Belize and Hilib is a traditional Somali dish of rice and a cut of meat. Hilib can either be any cut of meat, lamb, beef, but the typical hilib, which people know, is a nice big cut of lamb.
Oh, yeah, you already know.
All right.
You've never been in it, in Northampton, innit?
Where is it?
It's there's one opposite the mosque.
What mosque?
St. George's, Big Mosque. We call it Big Mosque. And then I went to another one in Brum. Forgot what it's called, man. No, so was it Brum or Leicester? And there's another one, I think it's called Brothers in London, that I need to go.
Tottenham.
Yeah, is that the one? Yeah, I need to go to that, yeah. You already know. Food.
Well, let's get something lined up, man. I want to do a little vlog series, man. I want to try some food.
Yeah, there, man.
You'll enjoy it. Trust me. You get big portions. It's not a
love small that. Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, they don't play about with the portions, man. They don't play about with the portions.
Good. Yeah. All right, so we've got the name Nomadic Libaax. There we go. The coffee's licking my brain.
You have to go.
Yeah.
Say again. Sorry.
Nomadic Libaax.
Libaax.
Yes.
Back of the throat. Yeah.
There we go.
All right. I'm learning. So I see the story. I see the narrative behind the name. How simple or easy was it for you to pull that together? Was it a process? Was it something that just felt very natural? Was it something someone suggested to you? Talk us through that process, because we've got 3 shows across the network, and we've got a network in and of itself. And to be honest, if I really think about the way we come up with the names, I wish I could say it was some big creative process, but it really wasn't, was it? We just sort of said, bro, you're a Muslim. Yeah, I come from a Jamaican background, and our main dish in Jamaica, or one of them anyway, is akhi&saltfish. Akhi in Arabic means brother. That aligns well with his culture. We put them both together. We got an akhi&saltfish digital network, and that felt really right. And I won't go into the story of Cool.Fine.Done Wicked, because it's an episode in and of itself. Yeah. But all the other ones, they're all quite simple. So yeah, for us it was a simple process. But I'm intrigued for you. That name feels like it means a lot. So what was that process like?
Okay, then that goes into like the backstory of who I am, because I've been actually, before I did poetry, I did freestyle rap.
Right.
That's how I got my start, like just freestyling anywhere and everywhere. And then when I recently, like a couple years ago, I decided that I'm going to take creativity seriously. So as in this lane of artistry, it's like, okay, what do you want to be your identity moving forward? How do you feel like the story in which you're trying to convey lives up to who you are? So I did some thinking, some serious thinking, and it was like, okay, I know I'm British Somali, but I'm more than that. I'm a man, I'm a person of who I believe to be of like value to add to this world. So if I have value to add to this world, it has to be represented in what I'm trying to convey and bring across. So the name Nomadic lives up to me personally as well as historically from where I'm from. And Libaax is not that man's a lion or no. The name Libaax has even something to do with the historical aspect of Somalia, because Somalia was called the Lions of Africa because historically they did a lot of help with different African countries and communities. So it's more to do with the lion as being a lion, even in the way the word you say lion, there's a line. You get it? So if you get line of the lion, then you understand where I'm aligning. So I don't even know. It's more to do. It's more to do with this. Everybody's given a name, but when you choose a name, that's the name you move forward with. In terms of like artistry, because that's what separates an artist from your everyday person. Because then when they move forward in this space, there are brand as a personal brand as well as a business brand. So in this business brand of Nomadic Libaax, what does that mean? Oh, it's not just a stage name, it's not just an artist name, it's an avenue for creativity. So that's why I took some thinking for.
Bro, you said something there, everyone's given a name, but when you choose a name, it becomes who you are. You go with it. And you don't know this, right? But we've got an episode coming up in the next couple of weeks on names. And we're speaking to an academic who specializes in researching names. And we're going to put that to them, because actually you just blew my mind in the sense that we've all got names, but 99.9% of us haven't chosen our names. We get given our names before we even are cognizant, and we just roll with it. But you're right. When we get a chance to choose a name, it means so much more to us. Wow. Yeah. And then you don't think we didn't notice that one, about the lion and aligning and yo, you dropped a little bar on us there.
You was spitting bars there, bro.
There was some spirit there. I felt that.
I was gonna say, how long have you been doing it for? So you started off rapping, and then transitioned to poetry. How long have you been doing it for?
I'll break it down for you. Rap, intrinsically to me, and this is my personal opinion, rap means rhythm assisted poetry. Okay. The rhythm is assisting what you're saying, and what you're saying is assisting the rhythm. So any real rapper, what they're trying to do is, back in the day, it was called allegories. Allegories were stories with hidden truths, or truths which you had to follow along with. So rappers are modern day people who convey allegories to me. So the way I got started out over 10 years ago now, freestyle rapping. And I used to do like a lot of practice. When I mean practice, I put in the hours where I just have a random beat playing. I had a random word generator. I'd be playing a video game, so I'm multitasking. So I'm engaging different parts of my brain. And as the words are popping up and playing the game, but I'm chatting, smacking the mic to the people in the game about the words that I'm singing with the beat. So did a lot of that for hours. Like I played a game where I played it for like over 1,000 hours. So yeah, a lot of practice.
So you put in the practice hours, but I guess my question is trying to tease out a little bit. Was any of this a natural talent for you? Because, when we were in school, there was a group of kids, or we were in a group, let's say, and some of us, you always knew if you said something to them, they're coming back that fast, and it's going to be fire, and it's going to be good. Yeah, the comebacks are going to be on point.
Too quick.
Not everyone had that in the tank, but I would say I had it in the tank.
I think I had it as well.
I was always quite quick, man. But that didn't translate. We're not freestyle rappers. It didn't translate into that for us. But did you always have that natural talent, and you those practice hours strengthened it a little bit more?
I was illiterate till I was 13. I couldn't read, innit? And I'm partially dyslexic as well, so I always had a difficulty when it came to words. Like I'd be going Google Gaga when they'd be telling us to read in front of the class and stuff.
Yeah.
So for me, one thing about me in my personality type is like, if I'm not good at something, I'll practice it relentlessly. Like I did martial arts, so martial arts teaches you do the same action again and again and again and again. And to me, repetition is the master skill.
Right.
Because when you can get repetition down to a T, that means it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down, you get back up. Because I did cross country running as a kid, innit? So the thing is, when I was running, I said I'm not gonna stop. Just even if you get lactic acid or whatever, you just keep running, innit? So I took that same type of mentality to the rap, to the freestyle, because I was never really good at it. So I just practice in front of people and not in front of people, because no one's good at anything when they start off. And I learned another thing from performing is no one knows what you're going to say until you say it. So how can you say something wrong?
Facts.
You know? So just have fun with it and have no expectation. You have no limitation. So if you don't expect anything from anything, you can't be disappointed by it or limited by it. So keep trying.
I'm gonna get onto a question, but first, the first thing I want to say is I hope you're speaking to the younger generation. I hope you get in front of them and you attend schools or something like that. I hope that's either in your journey, in your path. I hope people are asking you for that, and if they're not asking you for that, I hope this is a springboard for which they do ask you for that, because you've definitely got a message, and I think you've inspired us in the matter of 5 minutes we've been here, mate. So do you know what I'm saying? Like, so many gems, so many gems.
I want to record that clip, snip it, and send it to everyone.
Yeah.
Trust me, bro.
Thank you, brother. I do community work. I do informal mentoring for youth in the community.
Wicked.
I ran workshops. I actually curated a workshop called Rhythm and Rhyme, Unlocking the Poetic Mind, which teaches about poetic outlook and the different nuances of rhythm and rhyme. I taught that to adults as well as kids. I taught a group of 30 children from 4 to 11 in Newham Community Centre in a summer school program. And it's something I'm trying to more proactively engage with, like community building and community work, man.
It's powerful.
Giving back is key, bro. Giving back. In Islam, there's a principle: give with your right hand so your left doesn't see. So that means you give to not receive. And so you don't give so people know you do it, but you give for the genuinity, like being genuine. That's why it's measured on the sincerity of your intention.
Bro, you might not know this, yeah? Because in episode 22 of our other show, Before Our Friends Die, we had an academic, Professor Jason Arday. Now, his experience was he was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3. He couldn't speak until he was 11 and couldn't read and write until he was 18. And since then, he's gone on to achieve a PhD. He's now the UK's youngest black professor, and he does all these inspirational things in the world of academia. But he also said, he referenced that proverb in Islam, the left hand, don't let the left hand know what the right hand is doing. It might have been the other way around. Sorry if I got that one wrong. But I'm seeing so many parallels between, and he's so values driven. And right at the start of this, you said you have value to bring to this world. So if you haven't listened to it, I definitely recommend you go back and listen to that one, because I think he is definitely someone who spiritually is aligned with you, and I'm picking it up right away. But also our listeners, if you're enjoying this one, go back and check that one out, because I can definitely see some parallels and some value. I want to pick up on the fact that you said you was illiterate until you was 13. What sort of character did that build? Because I imagine it was very character building. But could you talk us through that experience a little bit more and how it felt?
Okay, growing up as a child, I had problems communicating my emotions. So I was very emotional growing up, but I learned that with words and with reading, there is a power in it. But because in my young adolescent age, I was more lost in my emotions, just like in terms like, you're young, and I had a kidney disease when I was a kid, in it called nephrotic syndrome. Is when your kidneys leak protein. So I was given anabolic steroids at a very young age to help neutralize this. So it gave me heightened levels of energy, heightened levels of, so that's what managing my emotions were a bit difficult for me, because I had underlying factors. But the fact when it came to reading now, I'll be honest with you, as at a young age, I wasn't really academically astute, because I never saw the value in it. I was more present in just having the fun, having a laugh, just being a kid. But then when I was I remember being in a class, and all the kids, like, how they separate you into the different levels, like set 1, set 2, set 3. Yeah. I was always in the bottom set, or like the second bottom set. But then I remembered like, all these guys, I was cool with everyone. I was pretty friendly with everyone. But then I remembered, I want to be like the guys who take academia seriously. So I was like, back in my day, I'm not saying this so you can get my age. Back in my day, like 5 was the highest, didn't it? Level 5 was the highest. Level 4 was 3. My mom asked me, listen, just get 444. Just get 444 and I'll get you whatever you want. So that motivated me. So I started studying, I started reading books. And I got 444. But my mom asked me just before getting 444, she was like, get 555. And I was like, oh.
Move the goalposts.
Hey. Yeah. But I feel like, pushing myself. And then I was given a book, which was like the Encyclopedia of Science or something. And I really struggled to read that, but then I read the whole thing, and then I read the dictionary. When you struggle at something, I think repetition is the master skill. So you could say it's persistence, and understanding the value of taking one. Like, you could have the longest journey in mind, but if you focus on just breaking it down to the first step and repeating the first step again and again, and keep going at that pace and forget the destination and get lost in the journey, you don't worry about a thing.
Bro, that is, I think there's so many parallels people can use that for. You know, everyone's going through something right now, and I think particularly if we look in the news right now, the world is a crazy place if you get absorbed into the news. And I think if we break down what our next steps are going to be into those smaller steps, it might make it a little bit easier to digest, because there's a lot that is going on. And hopefully that for our listeners is a little piece of advice there to just break it down, take it slowly, and master it before you move on. You know, keep repeating it, master a movement before you move on. And you'll be, by the time you get there, the journey would have been amazing. So
there's some great books I would recommend. Atomic Habits is a great one that teaches you.
Bro, so we have a question which we'll ask you at the end. And
that's jokes, isn't it? That is jokes.
My favorite book, the person who influences me the most is Atomic Habits, James Clear, right? So we're talking about every action is a vote for the type of person you want to be, stacking habits, all these things inspire me because it's just a process. And if you can get your head around the process, you can get to the end goal. James Clear's got a classic line: you don't fall to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So how you get to the goals is the most important thing. And it sounds like you've unlocked your capacity in the sense that you know how you learn. And that's really, really powerful. And that's empowering as well, you know, to know how you learn and then know how you can pick up skills and develop them over time. So other books that you was going to recommend, so I interrupted you there.
Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. It's a story of success. That is a great book which talks about all the correlations between all the different successful people, from billionaires to academics to even like hockey players in different leagues, and how even the time that you're born can affect because of which academic group you're put into, and how different opportunities and dedication, when they meet, that's when success is really formulated. So it's understanding the different correlations. That's why the book is called Outliers. Another good book I would recommend is The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. That one really attributes, because there is the physical, but you have to understand within the metaphysical is the spiritual. And the spiritual literally has to do with your soul. This body that we're all in, each body is simply a vessel for something greater than yourself. If you believe or not believe, it's regardless, but there's an essence to each person. And that essence supersedes the physical. And when you can understand that, when you understand the limitless and the limited, when you understand the creator and creation, you can get the synonym and you can make the analogy. And so to me, that is a great book which highlights different ways that you can draw on spirituality to see the different aspects and the way it affects your life. And one more book that I would recommend is the 40 Hadith by Muhammad, of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the Prophet. Because that, for me, is an example of real life. It's like a case study of an example of a person who lived and the trials and tribulations that he went through, and examples of how to deal with things in terms of their value. Because like you said, systems are based on how you learn to use skills for systems. To me, it's based in value. So when you have a value system, to me, that's the overarching system. So that book very highlights how to develop a very, very positive value system.
I'm saying all this reading that you've done, all the culture and some of the work that we saw on YouTube, that some of your poetry, you put all of that into all your poetry, don't you?
Yeah. I try to
because I think some of the stuff that you say, some of it goes over people's head. Some of the history that you put in, some of the words that you use, references, it's all coming from, I'm assuming, all this reading that you do, and all the history. Because you put the one that we saw, I think it was on YouTube. It was what was it?
Nameless.
Was it Nameless? It could be Nameless.
Nameless, the music video. Nation of Poets was the poem about Somalia.
Yes, that one. That was beautiful. I found that so good. Gave a history on Somalia as well. So that was that. So you use all of that context and put it into all your work, don't you?
Yes. Alhamdulillah. Because one thing is, right, the first word that was repeated in the Quran 3 times, Iqra, 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 which means read, read, read. For the fundamental belief, the most important thing in faith is knowledge. For knowledge is the foundation of faith. Knowledge is the ground in which faith stands upon and is what develops firm belief. So without knowledge, without seeking knowledge, then there's nothing to substantiate your belief. So that's why even for me, from a young age, I questioned everything. So I read the Bible, I read the Tanakh, I read the Quran, and I did compare and contrast. And for me, I found different things which identified a value system which I could then move forward with. So seeking knowledge, the benefit of knowledge is to share knowledge. The benefit of knowledge is to share knowledge because knowledge empowers others. And knowledge is only power in its application. So knowledge to me might not be knowledge to someone else because then it's just taking up storage. It's not knowledge, it's information. So understanding which knowledge is applicable, which information is applicable, and then passing that on. That's what I try to do through my music, through my poetry, through anything creatively that I do.
I think we're gonna have to get a part 2 in person, you know.
Yeah, 100%.
Because for me, there's so many things I want to pick up on, and I can feel the energy even though it's online.
Yeah,
it's powerful, bro.
It's powerful. I'm not gonna lie. Do you do a lot? You need to go in front of a lecture class or a lot of people, man. I think what you're speaking is wisdom. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm getting that wisdom vibe.
For real.
Yeah, 100%. I barely read books. I'm not gonna lie to you, fam. I want to pick up a book now. You get me? I'm not gonna lie to you. Yeah.
What's your day-to-day like then?
Well, day-to-day now is between creativity and life and real work and stuff like that. But I try to find a balance between work and appreciation and sometimes relaxation. Relaxation comes here and there because an idle mind can be a scary thing, if you know what I mean, because sometimes you can be lost within your own thoughts. So I try to spend a lot of my time being productive in a sense, which is both emotional regulation as well as like appreciation of day-to-day activities, like even having fun just cleaning the house or something. You know, you can make any activity entertaining, but it's just about how you go about it, innit?
Being present.
And I like multitasking. I like multitasking. That's one thing I like because people can multitasking. The key to multitasking is compartmentalization. Compartmentalization basically means breaking down things into small brackets. For instance, I'll give you an example. When you're cleaning the house and you're listening to music, you're multitasking. But the only reason why you can do two at the same time is if you compartmentalize them as two separate things coinciding in the same space. So one is you actually physically doing the activity, then you listening to the music, and you might be dancing along or singing along. Look how many other things you're doing alongside each other, separate but together.
So you said you started out as a freestyle rapper. Then the example you gave us was, you know, sitting in your room playing video games. So we're talking about that multitasking again, and you're challenging yourself with having the beat in the background and a word generator. Do you remember the first time that freestyle rap became a public thing for you? I.e. doing it in front of an audience?
Oh, you know what the mad thing? I've got origin story, you know, like a superhero.
Let's go for it.
If you go to the first video on my Instagram page, the first video, that's the first time I freestyled like publicly in front of a big crowd. Basically, it was like 2019. This was just before the lockdown, or maybe the lockdown. I don't know. There was a guy on Primrose Hill. He was busking, innit, at the top of Primrose Hill, and he had a big crowd around him. I seen him. I told my friends, "Yo, I'm gonna go up there. I'm gonna do my thing, innit." Yeah, do your thing. So I asked him. I went up to him, gave him a couple quid. And I was like, "Listen, play like a hip hop beat." So he played like a hip hop beat. Then I just grabbed the mic and I started freestyling, and the whole crowd just started going crazy. It was all started going mad, man. It was a whole movie. That was a surreal moment for me because that was the first time I thought, yo, I'm clear, because I went viral in that one because there was like 60 people just all jumping around. And
Damn.
Yeah, it was mad.
That's what I'm gonna go watch that, innit?
Let's what's your Instagram? Please shout it out.
Nomadic, Nomadic, Nomadic _LIBAAX. Pronounced Libaax.
Make sure you follow him up, please, on Instagram, and make sure you subscribe to his YouTube channel as well. There's some content on there. Check him out, honestly, please. You won't regret it. So that was your first sort of foray into freestyle rapping. Now for poetry, let's take it back before I get into that question. Freestyle rapping. that industry is very much a culture of competition. Yeah. So you're freestyling against someone a lot of the time, from what I see online.
Yeah.
How much did you fit into that side of the culture?
I'll tell you one thing. Never compete where you don't compare. So I don't make a comparison to anyone because I see each person's individuality. So I haven't seen competition per se, but I know I'm not dull to the idea that it is a competitive space. But the thing is, instead of competition, it should be collaboration. Collaboration in terms of learning from each other. Anytime I see a sick rapper, I'll go, yo, I'll give him all his respect, all the love, because I'm learning from him. You understand? I see it as learning points. But the reason why I never compete, but I know in a space that I'm in, people feel the need to compete. But I feel to make it more human, make it more organic than a competition. Because when in a competition, there's a hierarchy, and I don't really like hierarchies because we're all human at the end of the day. And it goes back to my value system, because in Islam, we believe you shall not enter heaven with the atom's weight of pride. So to remove pride from the whole conversation, that's where competition is a breeding ground for pride and ego. So how do you deflate your ego and take the pride out? You go, yo, listen, I'm not better than you. You may feel that you're better than me, but listen, I'm a little nobody. I know a little he ha ha. I know a little 1 2. So I can show you what I can do. Show me what you can do, and then we're gonna see who's gonna kick like a kangaroo. You get me?
So poetry is a lot more of a humble space, isn't it?
Yes, that's why I like it more.
Yeah.
I can't lie.
So can you take us to then that first time when, again, publicly you started venturing into poetry?
Okay, it was the first time I ventured into it. Basically, what I did is, the way I started out with the poetry, I said, yo, on my 25th birthday, I said, I'm taking this creative stuff seriously, poetry and music, because I never took music seriously, because music is, in Islam, is questionable. And I only say it's questionable only because of two main things. One, because of engaging in idle talk, which means talk which leads people away from a path of righteousness. And second, the use of instruments, but then it becomes more specific to string instruments. And then, so it's because with instruments now, music is tuned to chords, which then tune you into a different frequency, which can make you susceptible to certain things. That's why the key fundamental thing is engaging in idle talk. So me personally, in everything that I do, I don't try to engage in idle talk. And I made a separation between the music and the poetry. So for me, that gave me clarity to move forward in the way that I have. And so the first time, going back to your question, the first time I got into it, I started recording videos in my mom's bedroom of me, all of these like 4 or 5 poems that I've written. I recorded them, then I put them on Instagram. That gave me catalog. So with that catalog now, I started reaching out to different organizations via Google, via Instagram, just to get in contact with them and see if what we could do. And there's a cultural festival that goes on called Somali Week. Somali Week is a festival which showcases Somali history, culture, and community. So I found out about them in 2019 and I wanted to be a part of them. So I sent them a message in 2020 and I got the opportunity to be a part of them. So in 2020, I actually was a part of Somali Week's festival, and that was the time that I finally got to showcase my art publicly in a forum where it was recorded. It wasn't live with a crowd or anything, but it was private. The first time that I did it in front of people in a stage, sorry, it says 5 minutes left.
Don't worry about that. All good.
Okay. Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So the first time I did it publicly was in an event called For the Culture, run by my friend Adjust King. You can find him on Instagram at Adjust King. His name is Asante. He's a great brother. And that was kind of surreal for me. I was shaking. I was nervous, up on stage. I did the same poem that I did for Somali Week. That poem that you see in Nation of Poets is actually the first poem I wrote in my journey to poetry.
It's like you knew my next question, because I was going to ask you what was that first poem, and possibly ask you if you wanted to give us a little snippet right here and right now.
What, do you want that poem or any other poem?
I'll let you pick, man. But I know Nation of Poets is a fire one.
Man.
You know what? I'll do for you another one from the dome.
Let's go.
This one is called Living for a Trend. That's the one. Living for a Trend is the backstory of how people become villains in the end. When initially it's something they never did intend. For when likes and comments matter more than friends or even matter more than them, it becomes the reason why some choose to play pretend, as the feed becomes their bestest of friends. Memory lane of a chain of events, but if not shared, did it even happen then? But when now becomes then becomes when, does it really even matter in the end? But don't worry, the highlights got all of them, but was it all for you or all for them? When in the end, the time spent doesn't hold meaning, it holds resent. So it doesn't cement the initial intent, rather, it contends and propels the foul thoughts that try to befriend, leading to a place you were never in to begin, to your own image looking back with a sinister grin, reminding you of all those things, the things hard to forget, yet easy to regret, even deeper to digest, the true testament to life's test. I say less, so I digress. Either way, we all die, yes. So I try to be different in the sense I build meaning from suspense. Given the tense of what I intend in this endeavor or any that I'm in. So I try take it in my stride so the journey's for the win, pushing with the wind, swimming full of sin, asking God to forgive any negative I ever did, even if I feel I may not merit it. For the Lord's forgiveness passes the precipice. This is a lesson I learned as I was less equipped when hope is all I had. So I'm hopeful, not wishing, lost on the journey, not the allure of the riches. For in the end, we all have the same finish. So I try to not let my thoughts diminish from the vision I envision of where what I was gifted is then what's given. Past the parcel along a long distance, regardless of indifference or the underlying friction of villains playing victims, to play up to the image that they're far from wicked, when it's clear what they did, because of how explicit acts committed by those complicit in the malice not written, overtly omitted. That's why for me, it's facts over fiction. Because when your mind's in prison, in a cell confined to living, when your mind's in prison, in a cell confined to living, blind in vision, heightened by the mind's restrictions, imposed barriers hiding wisdom from higher dimensions, it goes against intention and pre-planned ascension. And you know what? Just for this, I'll end it on that sentence.
Bro, this is why I wanted you on. Because without a doubt, you know, there's a few points in there where I'm thinking, I can't read Rochelle's mind. Yeah.
Bro, my mind's blown. I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm taking all of that in. I was like, yo.
And that's the thing about poetry. Poetry it's like a mirror at times. Yeah. You have a much more articulate way of saying what my mind is thinking and actually putting it in a way where I think, yeah, I'm inspired now, I'm empowered now to go. You said knowledge is empowering, right? And it's true. It's very true. I mean, the listeners, I'm sure, can work it out for themselves, but let's try and elucidate it a little bit more. What is that about? You know, living for a trend.
Okay.
What's the impetus behind that? What's the genesis behind that one there?
Okay. So now we live in a world, right, where your digital identity is more valuable than your real world identity. And that's a scary, scary thing.
And I know in many ways, right, if you're a listener, you may think that's a social media reference, right? But make no mistake, this is permeating our day-to-day lives as well. I'm not even here to share conspiracy theories, but in China, they are developing a social credit score, yeah? Which means who you associate with, yeah? Some of the things you post online, are they positive, are they negative, etc., etc. And when I say positive and negative, decided by who? Okay.
Do you know what that reminds me of?
What?
An episode on Black Mirror.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watched Black Mirror. There was an episode is when you got like virtual like bar on the top.
Yep.
So if you got like 1,000 likes, you can't get a coffee.
Yep.
Or something like that. Them little things. But that's
and
weird.
there's a score in China where if you get that score, you can't get a flight, you can't book a flight, you can't get a train.
Is it in the works always?
This is happening now. It's being trialed right now in places within China. We'll put some links below in the description just in case you don't believe me and you want some sources. yeah, it's scary.
It's a weird
And
time, man, this world right now.
our virtual identity, like you're saying, is more important than, you know, getting a picture with someone who's going to get us a few likes is more important than being in the moment. And the one time I reflected on this is when my brother got married in December, and I realized, I looked back on my phone, I had no pictures. I just enjoyed the day. And for me, there's a real conflict there. I'm really, really glad I enjoyed the day. That's the overarching feeling. But equally, I look back and I think, well, if for whatever reason I forget and I lose my memory, I'm not going to have any mementos. But equally, I'm glad that in that moment I enjoyed the time, because it does take something away from you. And there's certain cultures that believe that when you take a picture of someone, they lose a bit of their soul, you know. But I see that. I don't believe in that, but I can see why that thought process can form. So
I did the same thing at my brother's wedding as well.
No pictures.
I barely took pictures.
Yeah.
I was just enjoying the moment, doing my thing. I thought, nah. But then in my back of my head, I was like, someone's taking pictures somewhere. You get me?
So what's your process then? So
creative?
Creative process. Let's go through that.
Okay. Let me give you the tips and tricks. So, one thing I like is questions. Questions allow for space for answers to form a dialogue. Might not be the right answer, might not be the wrong answer, but in this question, you're formulating a discussion, because there are two parts to self. There's the internal dialogue and there's the vocalized dialogue. So the internal dialogue is your thoughts. So how do you check what you're thinking? Is by what you say. And what you say, how do you check what you say? Is by what you write. So through this 3-part process now, and first starting off from a question, which could be a thought, what does life mean? What does that mean to me? What does it mean to the world? What does it mean to anyone? And through vocalizing it, and then writing down perspectives, because everything is perspective. Different perspectives change all the time. If you were to look at a glass from one side and then look at it from another side, it doesn't matter if the glass is half empty or half full, you'll see the light hitting it in a different way. So it's about perspectives and vocalizing perspectives and having the honest discussions with self when nobody's there and it's just you and the creator. You understand? You just have to see the meanings for things for what they are. And I feel through questions and through answers. Questions and answers. So one way I like to do it is come up with titles, random titles. So one title like Living for a Trend. What does that mean for me? So how did I communicate that in the discussion of the internal dialogue vocalized? Same when I have another one, Nation of Poets. What does that mean? Somalia is called the Nation of Poets because our entire history, look how it's linked in. Our entire history is one of an oral history passed down through generation through poetry. So yeah, for me, it's a lot to do with questions, a lot to do with perspective, a lot to do with formulating a back and forth with yourself, because there's 2 ways you can check yourself. If you have thoughts that you cannot control, i.e. intrusive thoughts, you watch your thoughts or you question your thoughts. So one way to watch the thought is to be like, wait, stay right here, question it. See, it's a 2-part process. In questioning it, now you can watch it, and in watching it, you can question it. So doing that allows not the thought to run to here, to there, to there, to there. It's to be present. Because one key thing I learned is only now until it's not. You get it? It's only now until it's not. And then what was all the worrying and all these intrusive thoughts really worth? Because at the end of the day, it can all be taken away. So you just have to understand the value. It's everything I'm saying is interlinked to value system. Like, what do you place your value on? You know? And that's where it comes into the discussion of self. And so through my creative process, I try to check myself before I wreck myself. You get me?
I get the sense you've arrived. You know, you're at a stage of development of self where you feel sure of yourself now.
I would say more I'm on the journey of self-discovery. And on that journey is a pathway. Like, I never look at a destination because I know what the end destination is, the same for all of us.
Yeah.
But until we get there, I know one key thing. My value system is based on intention and action as a form of measurement. So intentions are measured by their sincerity and actions are judged by the way that they end. So what's the outcome? So I use that measurement system to determine how I move along this path. So every day is an opportunity. Every moment you're alive is an opportunity to do some good, do some kind act, random acts of kindness. It could be a kind word, it could be a kind action, it could be smiling, it could be anything. But to me, that's how you really win. That's what winning every day is to me. It's just to leave with the intention of just pleasing something greater than yourself, and and it doesn't matter if you go at any time. When you go, it's just like you're living by that intention, and you're trying to actualize it, bring it into fruition by the simple opportunities you might get in passing a person by during the day. Because one thing I want to make clear is there's a difference between your world and the world. Your world is how you interact with people, is how you spend your time. It's the character when people see you, when they don't see you. That's your world. The world is all these bigger things that go on that we have no control over. But your world interacts with the world on a day-to-day basis, but there's a clear differentiation between your world and the world. So I'm just lost in my world trying to discover myself. That's what I feel.
When did you reach that conclusion? Because I get the sense that that provides a bit of peace. For me, I know it does. When you accept that there's things out there you cannot control and you're looking for the wisdom to be able to distinguish between the two things that you can control and the things that you can't, that brought a lot of peace. Because then I wasn't responsible for the things that, weren't in my control. When did you reach that realization, and what helped you get there?
I say this, innit? Through pain, we find peace. And through pleasure, we find release. So you have to go through things. I don't wish it upon anyone, but anybody who's been through anything in life can understand there's a principle, again, an Islamic principle, with hard times come ease. So understanding that everything in this life is just a test of you, because look at it like this. You're given X amount of time in this life. And with X amount of time, every day you can look at it. Every day life gives you questions, and every day you give your answers. And you give your answers in the form of your intentions and your actions. So in looking at it like that, I'd say it took me a while, but at a young age, I always had a belief in a higher power, but I always questioned it. So I had to go on this journey of trying to find the answers, but I found answers for myself. And I always advise everyone to question everything, because even in Islam, it tells you to question everything. It tells you question everything to the point you ain't got no questions left. So for me, through pain we find peace. So going through stuff in life, the hurdles you go through life, and through pleasure we find release. And I want to make that clear as well, because there are simple pleasures in life. And with gratitude is where you get ease, isn't it? Just being grateful for every opportunity that you're even able. Like we have another principle. You never look at the person who has more than you and say, I wish I had this. You look at the person who has less than you, you're grateful, you're thankful, So it's just like, I think simple wisdoms, like if you look at, I spent a lot of time reading about philosophy and religious studies because I question things. And so Taoism, Stoicism, Hermetic sciences, you name it, they all have fundamentally the same principle. The same principle of do good and not do bad. And then they have interpretations of what good is and what bad is. But in our soul, in our being, we all know what is good for others as well as ourselves, innit? And it's simple. When it comes to you and yourself, that's you and, you get me, that's you and the creator. When it becomes to others, you don't want to play a risky game. You just want to be in everyone's good books. And I mean, you won't be necessarily in everyone's good books about how they perceive you, but in terms of how you interacted with them, the intention that you had with them, how you speak with them, the energy you emit to others, innit? If you just try to emit love, hate runs away.
Beautiful mindset, man. Beautiful mindset.
So you mentioned that poetry is embedded within Somalian culture and nation of poets and all that oral history that goes through the generations. Talk about, if you can, how that looks in your day-to-day life, or when you was growing up, how that history transaction was provided to you. How did that feel? Was it events? Was it talking to people? How did it actually look?
Let me give you a backstory now. So Somali culture and poetry are infused in their essence. So we have something called proverbs, same as they have in other cultures. But proverbs in Somalia are called mahmah. So a mahmah that my mom used to say to me as well is like, Nina shaqaysa shahma abo. That means a man who doesn't work doesn't get to drink tea. So if you don't work, you don't get to enjoy the fruits of your labor. So these are things that I heard growing up, and obviously being raised up in a ethnic household where they speak the language on a regular basis. In the house, we speak Somali, and outside we speak English. So, and I grew up around people who could speak the language as well. So I never spoke it great myself, but I always took an interest in learning about the culture and the history. And on a day to day, it's more to do with the principles because Somalia is 99% Muslim in it. So Somalia was the people of Somalia, because we have to look at it from a historical perspective. Africa before colonization was kingdoms and tribes. So in being kingdoms and tribes, there was ancient kingdoms and ancient tribes. If you look at the 10 oldest cities in the world, Somalia is 3 of them, because we have an ancient history which predates and is at the same date as ancient Egypt. An example of this is the pharaoh Hattutumun. Hattutumun was a pharaoh in 2500 BC who went on an expedition to the land of Punt, which I mentioned in the poem Nation of Poets. And the land of Punt means the land of God, because this was an ancestral home of modern-day Somalia, where it is now. And in this place, there was vast natures of trade, and there's a deep embedded history within poetry. For instance, when the Macrobians, or let me correct myself, when an outside force came to invade Somalia, they gave them a riddle in the form of poetry, which was in the form of a bow. And if you could string this bow, you could take the land. But it was more poetic in its manner. So they had wits about them in the way they engaged with different outsiders. But I feel like stepping away from that into modern day, it's infused in the way that the people carry themselves. Like, people could say a mah and it could end the conversation. And an example of this is one of the greatest poets that ever lived, called Hadrawi. Allah Haristo, may rest in peace. Hadrawi was one of the greatest Somali poets that ever lived. And his poetry is brought up in conversation to today, which then ends discussions, because they're quoting a piece of the poem to make an analogy to the question or the conversation that's being had, which shows you the priority or the respect or the revered nature poetry has within culture and custom. Another example of this is any community engagement where Somalis are present. Poetry will be present in some form of extent. So it's infused in the culture.
I love that.
Can you give me an example from that poet?
Hadrawi.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a poem which I recommend to read called Ja'al, which means love, but it's more in depth about. I'll give you an example of what it talks about. It talks about the struggle which was happening at the period between an oppressive state and the people. But it was conveyed in a way with so much emotion about a love story between a guy and a girl, and using what's happening in this situation to relate to how their hostility that they may feel towards each other, or the emotion they feel towards each other, is an example of that. But I might be getting that poem Ja'el mixed up with another one about a she camel. But I would just there's a whole book. There's a book called Hadrawi, the Poet and the Man, and this is a compilation in English and in Somali of different poets from this poet, and it's a great read.
Wicked. And again, we'll find that and we'll put the link below in the description. So if you want to go ahead and do some more research on that, you can do in the description below. I wanted to touch on a little bit about the culture of poetry. So, like I say, I saw you in October live, and for me, that was one of the few poetry events I've been to. But because it had been such a long gap between the last one and this one, I'd forgotten about
the clicking.
The clicking.
What's that about?
So, can you explain, bro? First of all, I'm intrigued. Coming from freestyle rap to poetry, was that a culture shock in the sense that, oh, this is the way we communicate here? Whereas in freestyle rap, I'm sure, it's a different expression, system. So Rachel, you're not too familiar with what this means.
No.
And maybe Nomadic, you can clear it up.
I'll break it down for you. So in poetry events, it's more of an intimate setting. So people are actually listening to every word a person's saying. So you don't want to be too loud or too overbearing. So when a person's performing their piece, instead of clapping or making loud noise, you just click to show that you admire and you resonate with what's being said. It's a form of endearment to give the person on stage a form of reassurance in what they're saying and what they're doing. And for me personally, it wasn't really a culture shock with the because I understand spaces and people. People have different ways of conveying emotions in it. So you can tell when people are reserved, when people are, extrovert. Read the room.
So that's basically a pull-up.
Yeah.
That's basically a pull-up.
Yeah.
Hey, run
No,
it,
no,
run it,
what
yeah.
you can say in poetry events, you can say that again, or bring it back.
Okay.
Right.
You're really vibing with it. You say run the thing. You can say any way that you want.
Yeah.
Turn to say that last line again.
Damn, I was just in my mid-flow, bro. What you doing? Hey,
Yeah.
that's cool, you know.
So, we've reached that time in the show.
Mad appreciation. That's...
Yeah, let's just, a lot of knowledge has been dropped right now.
Bro, hella
So
knowledge.
let's
My
just-
mind's a bit...
Let's drop a little round of applause,
I don't think you can hear it, but we're applauding you on a button.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I don't think it comes through. I think it's that time of the show now where you said you was a freestyle rapper,
Yeah.
and you used to do some word generations and get your brain flowing. So Rachel, over to you.
What a random word, bro.
Yeah, time to drop a few words and see what we can create as a team.
Random word.
Try and make it snappy. This is a podcast.
Bro, if you got a good one, man, I'm thinking like
All right.
mirror. Oh, mirror's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do mad stuff with mirror.
Yeah. Mirror is easy. You pick a word as well. Mate.
Okay.
Knowledge.
All right. Now, mirror, mirror, mirror. What do I see? Is it the eventuality or a fake fallacy in the mirage? I mean, living life hard. So what, you got bars, but you're an actor. Because everyone's trying to act up, but this ain't a scene that you can see through. I mean, if I look in the mirror, it looks opaque because I can see through. I mean, if you had knowledge, you would know how to move, but the knowledge is promised solace in the place of the kingdom, not Solomon. I mean, I'm solemnly swearing to understand, to overstand, to understand. So how do I expand on what I stand? So let me take it back. If I stand in front of a mirror, is that really where I'm at? Because I'm looking at myself, but what's really looking back is the hope for knowledge that I feel that I lack. Thank you, my brothers.
I love that, man. I love that. Now,
I don't know.
I want to just hold it down for a little 5 seconds. Let's be grateful for 5 seconds of silence, yeah? That's our grateful moment of silence, because we're genuinely, I really appreciate the energy you come to us with today, to be so open to all of our questions, be so open to all of our things that we're throwing at you. You're dropping knowledge, you're dropping gems.
Knowledge, bro.
I'm really appreciative, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my brother.
The final quarter, I suppose, is about the business of poetry. I touched on it a little bit earlier in terms of I feel like you should be in front of the young ones, giving them the wisdom and the knowledge that you're sharing with us today. But how does poetry make money? Cool.Fine.Done Wicked, to give you some background, we're a podcast about music, the nuances of music. We love the detail, we love the backstory, we love the process. But ultimately, music and creative arts in general are one of the toughest industries to get into and get out of sane because of all the pressures that go with it. People want to take your value for free. So could we talk a little bit about the business of poetry? So what is it? I mean, when we was at the event in Milton Keynes, there was one guy who was commissioned for BT to do a poem around Mo Farah for Black History Month, I believe. Now, for you, what is the business of poetry, and how does it, lend itself to your life and your future, importantly?
I'll explain it like this. If you're in this space as a creative, you have to understand one thing. What are you really doing it for? Because if you understand what you're really doing it for, no matter the hurdles, the obstacles, or the barriers that you feel are in front of you, you understand the essence of what keeps you moving. So for me, I've never really seen a financial avenue from this per se, in terms of like making a consistent money. You might have one-off sporadic thing that happens here and there, but if you want longevity in this, you have to actually build a vision, build something which is sustainable and consistent. So it's about merging the different avenues with creativity to then perpetually sustain itself. So you have to have solid foundation for that. For instance, I say, if you're creative, look at your social media as your digital portfolio. It's an example of what work you do and what work you can do for others, and then gives them a place to reach out for you. So for me personally, I built my own website where I showcase all my creative outlet, all of the link in my bio. I built another platform where I built a poetry platform. So it's about expanding on the things. So for me personally, I explain how I do it. So I built a poetry platform called poetically-perplexed.com. Initially, it started off as a place for me to showcase my work in the written format, because there's different ways you can showcase your work. People take in content in different ways, whether visually, audio, and written. And there's page poetry and there's stage poetry. Page poetry is you read from a book or you read and recite from the page. Stage poetry is more spoken word, it's more performance based, and it's more the theatrical elements. That in itself, that's a whole avenue of where you can get paid to headline shows, and that can be your consistent bread and butter. But I'll be honest with you, poetry in itself is a saturated market in terms of like, there's a lot of amazing poets out there, and there are a lot of nights, but they're far and few for the amount of people that are in it. So you understand where I'm coming from. So for me, it's about relaying this content in a way which is digestible, which is consistent, which is engaging. So what did I do? I built the platform poetically-perplexed.com, where to showcase it in the written format. And this platform was first to showcase my work, but then I pivoted. I said, look, there's a lot of amazing poets out there, right? So I've been doing this thing where I've been creating series, different series. And so the first series I created was called Food for Thought, which was a short, very short series of just like posts on my Instagram, just like quotes from all my works that I've written with a little description about it. Then that gave me, it was the catalyst for another series that I started called Poetic Free Flow. And obviously Food for Thought was just a picture-based one with writing. So that's visual stimulus. Poetic Free Flow was more of a video format. Short 1-minute clips of just freestyle poetry off the top of the dome in different locations. So this is a continuous series I'm still running, Poetic Free Flow. Then I was like, because I've got Poetically Perplexed, a platform to showcase my work, I was like, listen, I know so many amazing poets in this community. Let me create a series for them. So I created a series called People That Are Poets. And in this series, I showcase each episode a different poet from a different place and who they are, what inspires their work, and a short poem of up to 20 lines from them. And so this is a continuous series, and I'll give you some inside information.
Wicked.
When this is finished, I'm going to actually convert the series into an anthology and publish it to showcase the book to the world of all these different poets that are amazing, you know?
Love
and
that.
So what I say is, in this creative space is about how to relay your content, relay your message, keep it consistent. Like, and a key example of this, you know about Gary Vee, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And those who don't know Gary Vee, he's a businessman, he's a public speaker, he does a lot of amazing work. Gary Vee, he lives his life, he does what he does, but he's always recording bits and bobs. Same within this podcast. If you were to break this podcast an hour long or whatever it may be, you break it down into 30-second clips, 20-second clips, 1-minute clips, and then use scheduling apps like Buffer or Hootsuite. Buffer and Hootsuite allow you to schedule and automate posts on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter ahead of schedule, 30 days ahead, and you automate the process. So it takes a lot of the back-end work out of the way, and then you just deal with the comments and you engage. It allows you to build an organic community, an organic following, and that is what helps you with the vision and with the long term of things. Because in this poetry and creative space, if you don't have the strong foundations of an active, engaging community, showing that you're just a real person in it, even what you do outside of creativity, get the people involved in the process, then they will feel like, yo, I resonate with him. KSI is a clear example of it. This guy's done anything and everything. But why has he done it? Along the way, his fans have actually been a part of his community. He's built that authentic relationship with them through all the different mediums that he's relayed the different parts of himself. So that's one thing I'd say to creatives in general.
Do you know what? A little kick to myself there, because I forgot to preface that question with, you know, for future poets, what can you give them in terms of an avenue to make this a career? And you did that anyway. So a huge thank you to you. You knew what I was trying to ask without me even saying it. Yeah, I think, Rachel, over to you. I know you had a question there on the tip of your tongue.
Yeah, which I was going to say, do you know, How do you put your work out there? I know you say you put it on your websites and your posts, your Instagram. How do you put it in a book? Because I remember, I think, was it during school, GCSE, we had that poem book.
Anthropology.
Yeah. But I mean, how do you put it into one of them? Like, I think some of the poems that you do, some of the kids need to see it.
Okay, there's different ways to go about it. You can publish through a publisher like Penguin Books or Murky Books, or you can self-publish. Those are the two avenues that people generally go down. Now, with an anthropology, I could look at different publishers to go through because it isn't just myself that I'm publishing. I'm showcasing all these different poets. I'm already on episode 5, and we're looking to make a continuous series. I want to get as many people involved as possible. So I'm going to be looking to expand to different places like Africa, Asia, and Americas, and Europe to get, I want it to be as diverse and as different perspective. Yeah. Get the whole world involved in terms of like relaying poetry and showing it's a medium that everyone can. So the two ways to go about it is self-publish and through a publisher. And self-publish is costly on your part, but you can do print on demand. There's different ways to go about it. And then through a publisher, there's some bureaucracy, there's fees that need to be paid and stuff.
But I think some of your work is going to hit hard with the younger generation. It's like definitely the black students, Muslims, everyone. I think some of the work you do is going to hit hard because what we got in school was just everyday poem, innit? But nothing that really hit me or anything like that because
nothing that related to us.
Exactly
the relatability.
Exactly. That's what it is, and I think some of your work needs to be in some sort of book that the kids will. I remember, man, inferring what did this mean, what did that mean,
all of that.
But nothing was relevant to me. I didn't care.
Yeah.
But the work that we saw on YouTube, that
Nation of Poets,
beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful,
indeed.
Because I know I've got so many boys, anything from Somalia, and I was like, yo. That's mad, you know.
It's good to know a piece of their history and be able to say, like we've got something we can link with them now on. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
First it was food, then it was football, but now it's a matter of Nation of Poets. Like I wanna have that conversation with them now.
Yeah, but I'm definitely like I know BK mentioned it to me. BK and MJ definitely mentioned that your poet's a thing down our sides, man.
Right, so 2 things I want to pick up on. There's going to be links in the description for everything we've discussed today that we said we'll put a link for. We're also going to put a link for Poetic, you have to remind me,
Poetically-perplexed.com.
Poetically-perplexed.com and the link to Nomadic Libaax.
There we go.
Instagram down below. So that has been... Not that one. That has been an episode on the akhi&saltfish Digital Network of Rachel, what's it been? Cool.Fine.Done. Wicked. When you hear this back, you'll hear there's a beat playing right now and it's fire.
And we've got loads of buttons that make noise.
Yeah, listen. You've been joined by me, Kavan.
Me, Rash.
And I'll let you say it.
Nomadic Libaax.
There we go. Thank you so much. It's been an episode of knowledge. It's been an episode of gratitude, and it's been an episode of value. You mentioned right at the start that you wanted to showcase your value, and I think over the course of this episode, you've certainly done that. You've added value to our day, our week, our month, our year already, and we're incredibly grateful to you. So thank you so much. Our first guest ever on Cool.Fine.Done Wicked. So it's been a pleasure to have you on and discuss your journey. Don't forget, stay tuned for part 2 where we get to know Nomadic Libaax, and we will make sure that it's a great episode as well. We've got the 7 questions plus a very special Cool.Fine.Done Wicked question, which you haven't heard yet. So make sure you stay tuned for that one. This has been the akhi&saltfish Digital Network. We are available on Twitter at akhi&saltfish, Instagram at akhi&saltfish, or at Cool.Fine.Done Wicked. And of course, make sure you check out the links and the description below for any extra detail. If you want to get in touch, ask a question, please do email akhi&saltfish@gmail.com, and please don't forget to leave us a 5-star review, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and like and share the vids. Thank you so much and take care.
Thank you, bro. Assalamu alaikum.